we go to the Dudaei Reuven on Parshas Vayakhel. And so the Dudaei Reuven, as is the case, he starts with quoting the pasuk about, he's also talking about this mitzvah of Shabbas, and why is the commandment of Shabbas come before the commandment to build a Mishkan. So he quotes Rashi to tell us that the Mishkan doesn't override Shabbos. So they ask the question, but we already said this in Parashas Kisisa, asks the Dudaei Reuven. We said this last week. It already stated, God said to Moshe, speak to the children of Israel, Es Shabsosai Tishmoru, guard my Shabbos. It's a sign between me and you. Meaning to say, we had already this commandment last week. Why do we need it to be repeated? Already in Parashas Kisisa, Rashi said that the reason why the Mishkan, that it tells us about the Mishkan in Kisisa is to tell us that Shabbos, you're not allowed to do the work of the Mishkan on Shabbos. So why is it repeated in Parashas Vayakhel? Why does it need to say it twice? One time, right after the commandment to build a Mishkan, and one time right before they actually build it. And then it actually appears a third time in Torah's Kohanim. So he now quotes from the Mechilta. Mechilta says, this is a sign between me and you. Shabbos is a sign between me and you, and not between me and the nations of the world. In order to know that I am Hashem and making you holy for the world to come. Like the holiness of Shabbos in this world, that the world to come is going to be like the holiness of Shabbos in this world. So we learn that Shabbos is like the holiness of the world to come. And that's when we sing the song of Shabbos. What does that mean? Yom Shekulo Shabbos, the whole day is Shabbos. So we need to explain, says the Dudaei Reuven, what's their intent? What does it mean that this is my sign between me and you and not between me and the nations of the world? What does that mean? If Hashem had made a covenant with the nations of the world, then the Shabbos would have been given to them. So what's the distinction? Also, what's the relationship of Shabbos to the world to come? So he quotes here, we're not going to have time to read the entire essay of the Dudaei Reuven of Vayakhel, because he has a very long essay. But he quotes here as follows. He says, first of all, why is this the only passage in the Torah that begins, the only parasha that begins with Vayakhel, gathered? So we cited this on Monday also, but God said to Moshe, on Shabbos, there's a special idea of gathering together and teaching the laws of Shabbos, or teaching about Shabbos, so that the future generations will learn from you to gather on Shabbos in order to say that which is prohibited and that which is permitted. And so from here, Moshe instituted that 30 days prior to Pesach, we have to teach about the laws of Pesach. Meaning to say, even though the actual gathering was not on Shabbos, Moshe gathered them for the purpose of the Mishkan. But the first thing he taught them was about the prohibitions of Shabbos. Because God gave two special gifts to the Jewish people. What are the two special gifts God gave to the Jewish people? Shabbos and the Mishkan. And both of them are for the purpose of strengthening our faith, strengthening our spirituality, and bringing the divine presence down on Israel and lifting up the spirit of the Jewish people. That'll take us to an even higher spiritual level. Meaning to say, by the way, I want to pause and say, Hashem gave us two gifts, the Mishkan and Shabbos. We don't have the Mishkan anymore. All we have now is the Shabbos. The Shabbos can help us achieve the level of the Mishkan. It's almost like we don't need the Mishkan now. We just need to do on Shabbos what we're supposed to do, which is to immerse ourselves in the spiritual, to immerse ourselves in the spiritual on Shabbos to achieve this level. So when Moshe wanted to explain to the Jewish people the purpose of the Mishkan and the benefit that will come out from it, what does Moshe do? Moshe starts by talking about Shabbos, because Moshe says, if you keep the Shabbos, you achieve the level of what we can get to by building the Mishkan. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu was doing. That's the connection between Shabbos and the Mishkan, by saying, when we keep the Shabbos, that's what the Mishkan will be. The Mishkan will be this place that we can achieve every day. Let's say we need this spiritual high, but it's a Sunday, it's a Monday, we can't get there. We can't get there because it's not Shabbos. No, there'll always be a place of Shabbos. Shabbos as an idea is on Shabbos itself, on Saturday, but there will always be a place of Shabbos. So it tells us that Shabbos brings the Jewish people to this place of, Dudaei, Reuven says, it's to remind the Jewish people that the Shabbos brings the holiness and the resting down of the divine presence more than the Mishkan. Even when the time where the Beis HaMikdash is not in existence, Shabbos is the Beis HaMikdash for the Jewish people in its holiness. And so therefore, in order to gather the people for the purpose of donating Hashem, for the Mishkan, Hashem said, gather together on Shabbos. This day is the purpose. This day is the day of spiritual growth. That's the value of the Shabbos. And so that's what the Dudaei Reuven is saying. This is the connection between the Shabbos and the Mishkan to tell us that if we really want to achieve this level of the Mishkan, we can do so. We can do so by making the Shabbos a proper day. What's the Shabbos a proper day? If it's just a day where we just don't work, we've missed the point. Then it's not Shabbos. How does it become this special spiritual day between God and the Jewish people? If it's a day of spirituality, of immersing ourselves in Torah, of immersing ourselves in spiritual thought, of immersing ourselves in a place of spiritual ideas, and that causes the divine presence to rest in us. So what's the vort of the Dudaei Reuven? What's the connection between Shabbos and the Mishkan? Shabbos is the Mishkan. That's the idea. Shabbos is greater than the Mishkan. That Shabbos is this great spiritual connection we can have even without the Mishkan. It's the Mishkan needs to learn from Shabbos. That's the vort of the Dudaei Reuven. So let me see if anybody has any questions. We said a lot today.